there's a lot of people who say the Batman v Superman is kind of boring because of the pretentious philosophical musings. I mean, really, dude, really, is that? I mean, okay, I'll go on a kind of, you know, just straight out say this. I studied philosophy at university, and some of the things that came up in this film were things that we talk about in philosophy class, that lecturers were writing books on, that, you know, obviously it glossed over them because it's a movie, it can't go into a lecture about it, but essentially these were ideas that have been discussed since, you know, ancient Greek philosophers were walking around, you know. It's bizarre to me that you can say it's pretentious. I don't think there's anything pretentious about it. Whether the question of if God exists and he's all powerful, how can there be evil in the world? I think that's a rather interesting question. The fact that they don't try and answer it because no one can answer it, you know, those kind of questions that come up in the movie are absolutely fine. They're thought-provoking and they're interesting, and they were thrown into the movie sparsely and at the right times. And I think, as again, hats off to the writer, the way they wrote Lex Luthor, because he was philosophical, he was demented, he was evil, and he was always kind of throwing some kind of theological kind of ideas into the general narrative that I thought were very fun and interesting, and he did it in a funny way, and it was clever. So the philosophical side of it, I thought was very interesting. I thought that was a good on them, brave move, and cinema audiences should have been happy that a big blockbuster movie like that, Batman v Superman itself, was actually attempting in some way to make you think. You'd think that you'd appreciate that, I don't know, whatever. Dream sequences, too many. Yeah, I agree with this. I believe the dream sequences should have been saved for the ultimate cut, because that was really for the fans. It didn't add to the narrative. I think they should have. I mean, with the Dawn of Justice thing, would the Trinity fight have been enough at the end to symbolize Dawn of Justice? Or would they have to have had, like, they could have just put one more cameo in, I don't know, Victor Stone playing at the football game could have done it, but like, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, the dream sequences, because as I told you, I fell asleep. And the second time I watched the movie in the cinema and I tried to watch it with the trailers and everything, I fell asleep. It was too goddamn long and something had to go, and I can't think of anything. You know, I'm sure he was so proud of the director because it was a beautiful sequence, all of that stuff in the desert, and he probably really didn't want to take it out. But to me, the film would have been more coherent if he had have added in all that stuff of Superman trying to find out about Batman, and I had have added that stuff of the stuff in the desert before to flesh out Lex Luthor's plan, and all of that. If you take out every kind of dream sequence in the movie, you could have had that, and you could have had a much more linear movie, and I think it would have been a better experience. Personally, I think it would have been I think that would have been I think that would be the best version of the movie. Take out the dream sequences, put those in instead. But having said that, I think the dream sequence was very beautiful and very beautifully shot. Maybe you could have had it as a short movie or something like that before, like you know, put it in the cinema as like a trailer, like a really, really long kind of trailer for Batman v Superman. I think like as a short film that would have worked really, really well, and then added it to the ultimate cut the way he wanted it after. But those dream sequences, man, I'm sure that it, like, I know about Darkseid, I know about all of that kind of stuff. I'm sure it had the audience baffled. I think they could have left in the bit with the Flash coming through the portal, though. I think that could have been left in, and maybe done something a little bit shorter with the dream sequence. I don't know. But anyway, that's my view on the dream sequence. So as I said, you can see I am being fair. Where I see problems with the movie, I am being fair. So I'm not just like fanboying out and giving excuse after excuse for everything in the movie. Okay, the Martha scene. Now, this is one of the things. I'm going to say two things about the Martha scene. Now, there's two aspects to this. Now, one, we've got people who mock this scene, and they mock the very, very idea of it. I'm not going to go over again because it's so bloody obvious. I think only someone who is wanting to hate this movie or just is stupid. I don't know. You either want to hate this movie and you want to troll and you want to pile on, because if you don't understand this, especially people who say they're Batman fans, if you don't understand this scene and why Batman decides after hearing Superman say, save Martha, if you don't understand that scene, as a Batman fan, and I'm not even like the biggest Batman fan, like he's one of my, he's as I said, apart from of the Trinity, he's probably the least favorite of the Trinity of mine. If I were really to look at it, I like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman as my favorite superheroes, but he's probably just slightly the least. But even so, I'm not a huge comic reader of all of them. You know, I haven't read every single kind of incarnation of like Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman. I've read quite a bit, but you know, there are fans who are like crazy over Batman. They've read like everything, and they're saying, oh wow, the Martha scene, I don't understand, or they claim to have read everything. I don't know if they actually have. Now, to me, I'm just like, it's very clear and obvious what the Martha scene is trying to do. Now, this is the second bit of this. I think it's very poorly executed, and I'm going to explain why it's poorly executed. Okay, so the first thing is clearly we all know, stop trolling, stop pretending you don't understand. Even if you didn't understand it while you were watching the movie, stop being so stubborn. You know exactly why the Martha scene, in terms of Batman stopping the fight because of the you know, of what Superman said in that particular moment. You know exactly why that makes sense. The film sets it up perfectly in the beginning, even though I didn't want to see another scene of Batman's parents being killed, and I thought that scene in the beginning where Batman's parents are killed is so ridiculous, and what a redundant use of two great actors as well, just to play Martha and Thomas Wayne and get shot just like that. What a waste of that actor, you know. Unless they're gonna do a storyline where Thomas Wayne in an alternate world becomes the Batman and she becomes the Joker, like in the Flashpoint Paradox. What a complete waste of those two actors to do just a little vignette of getting shot. Like, I'm not even going to get angry about that. But anyway, they set it up. You know, the last thing he hears after, you know, his parents get shot is, you know, Martha. You know, the father saying Martha. And we all know that Batman ultimately, if he could go back and do something about it so his parents don't get shot and he doesn't have to become Batman and he doesn't go into become this, you know, vengeful, you know, vengeful kind of avenger of the night. He would go back and, you know, erase all of that and just live happily with his parents. He regrets that he wasn't able to do anything, and that's why he's put on the bat. And everyone knows this. I don't even know why I'm saying all of these words, because you know it, you know it, you know it, you know it, and you know that that is the reason, and you're just being stubborn because maybe you didn't get it in the time in the cinema, and now you get it, but you don't want to admit you're wrong. You're wrong. It makes complete sense why Batman turned on it. Now, was it effectively, and why Batman stopped the fight? Now, was it effectively done as a scene? No. No, it was not effectively done as a scene. Too many dumb things about it. Why would Superman call his mother Martha? Who could, like, he loves his mother. He's got such a good, touching relationship with his mother. Why is he calling his mother Martha? It makes no sense. I mean, that's just another Zack Snyder thing. He just does these Zack Snydery things, and it's so annoying because he could make it perfectly fine and it all makes sense, but he just Snyders it. So you can see now I'm not a massive fan of Snyder's, you know, oversights in filmmaking. So again, I'm being fair. I just think this film is, all in all, really, really great in some areas, really great, and much, much more interesting filmmaking than Civil War. Okay, so the Martha, because you can talk about this. No one can talk about Civil War the way I'm talking about Batman v Superman. No one can talk about, because there's nothing of interest in it. There's nothing that bad and there's nothing that good. It's just there. You can't analyze it. There's nothing to analyze. You can analyze this movie because it's interesting, and it has interesting themes, and it has interesting decisions that it decides to make, that are most often controversial and challenging to the viewer. You couldn't do this about Civil War because it doesn't warrant that kind of analysis, and that's the difference between this film and Civil War. Just to put a button on what I'm trying to say. But anyway, where were we? The Martha scene. We all know why it works, and as I said, but there's things about it that don't. Now, the problem is, I can see why he said save Martha rather than save my mother. I mean, yeah, it could have been save my mother in the script, but if it was save my mother in the script, and Batman kind of was like, what do you mean mother? It wouldn't have had that impact. It wouldn't have had that impact. That, I mean, maybe if Pa Kent was still alive and he said, save my parents, then it could have, you know, you're killing my parents, you know. But again, you're killing Martha has just that, as a line, it has a really striking power. Now, I would have thought the really, really best way to have gone about this was, rather than, all in the ultimate cut this happens, rather than all of that time where Clark Kent is investigating the Batman, him, you know, that all of those scenes served to do was make Batman look like more of a badass. They didn't serve anything really significant in the movie. They didn't really tell you too much more about Clark Kent. He didn't get so many more lines. All his lines were kind of like, all his lines didn't tell you anything about him. They just were like other people either speaking to him and telling him about Batman, or it was, they just didn't say much about him. So if he had have used that time to investigate Batman, and then when he heard it and figured out Batman was Bruce Wayne, somehow he stumbled across the tragedy that had happened to Bruce Wayne, and he found out about the mother being called Martha, and then that's why at the end of the fight, Superman actually technically would have won the fight by using his brains, because he actually psychologically does it on purpose, saying save Martha, knowing that how that was going to affect Batman. Now that would have been good storytelling. That would have been ABC. So they could have used that time to set up something to make Superman look like he's not just this big, tough, powerful guy, but he's actually got some kind of character and brains to him. And I think that would have been a really, really good way to go, because Superman in the comics, he's not just some idiot. He's a guy who's, he's got a lot of great power, but he's got a mind behind him as well. And it was the same thing, when they just blow up the Senate. That's another terrible Snyder mistake. Stay with the moment just for a single moment. That could have been a Superman speech. Take out those dream sequences, put in a Superman speech where he defends himself to humanity. So again, I'm trying to be very, very fair to this movie, but again, the big point here is, despite all this, there's great things about this movie, as I've pointed out. Batman kills. Another deconstruction of a character. Now, Batman killing in this movie is jarring. I think it doesn't really, the sense of it is kind of strange, because here's this guy who cares about, Superman killing all these people in this fight where he was trying to actually save the world, and he's killing himself. So again, I don't know how to defend the Batman killing. I honestly don't. And it's not because that I don't think Batman should be able to kill in movies, but in this specific movie, it can't be justifiable, because once Batman kills, then it takes away from his motivation to want to fight Superman, who he thought had done all this great destruction and killed so many people. So again, although I like the idea of this is an old Batman who's gone over the edge and has become more ruthless, as soon as he crosses that line, he, as a person, has no credibility in criticizing Superman. However, was it so bad, him killing, that I stopped enjoying the movie? No. So again, I'm gonna say I agree with guys who say Batman shouldn't have killed. I don't think Batman should have killed, considering the story they were trying to tell, but it wasn't so jarring, and I enjoyed most aspects of the Batman character. I loved what they did in terms of making Bruce Wayne a bit more like the James Bond. I'd never seen that before. I think Ben Affleck, for the most part, although he didn't do anything, and this is what I was going to say, like this scene alone from, I'm going to show you a scene now, because I was setting this up. Ain't no way Ben Affleck's better than Christian Bale. I don't even think he's better than Michael Keaton. I think he's about on par with Michael Keaton. Although Michael Keaton didn't get to show off a lot of his range. But there are scenes that there was not one scene that wasn't, you know, fight choreography in Batman v Superman that impressed me so much about this new Batman. All the scenes that impressed me about this new Batman were all fight choreography or some other kind of, like when he crawled up into the corner like as if he was a bat, you know, or when Bruce Wayne was flying on the, you know, as a child, he'd fallen down the well and he's flying on the wings of the bat. All of the stuff about Batman that I liked was the kind of, you know, the visual and the fight choreography. Ben Affleck's was serviceable as the kind of vessel that kind of the face of these great visual and fight spectacles that Batman was in. But yeah, like, I mean, the subtlety and nuance of Christian Bale in Batman Begins, no way. It blows Ben Affleck out the water. And just look at this scene. Sorry, you're trying to tell me, the Nerdman, on with enough prep time, and you don't even have that class. No, you're trying to tell me that Ben Affleck did anything like that as a scene in Batman v Superman? What Christian Bale did there was just, he took us through so many different aspects and sides of the Batman and Bruce Wayne character that, you know, this new James Bond Batman is cool and everything, but you know, essentially the acting is, it's Ben Affleck's best acting, but Ben Affleck's best acting is, it's average, dude. I don't know what to say. It's above average. Like, Ben Affleck's best acting on his, if he's giving everything he's got 170%, he still isn't as good as certain actors like Christian Bale or, you know, Caprio or any of those guys. So the intro of the Justice League is the last thing that I'm going to talk about. So I was very impressed by Ben Affleck, by the way, don't get me wrong, he was really, really good. Intro to the Justice League, and the film is overstuffed with characters. This is the last critique of the movie. That I found has been the general critique of Batman v Superman. What can I say about the intro of the Justice League? I mean, what the hell do you want anyway? How did that ruin the movie for you? They introduced the Justice League on a video because that's what, you know, Lex Luthor had. He'd gone. I thought it was realistic. That's what I thought. I thought, actually, you know, that's kind of actually generally realistic. That's how, rather than having some kind of weird, like, spectacular thing where they bump into the Flash, maybe they could have made a cool post-credit scene with the Flash instead of doing those videos and then just taken that scene out. But generally speaking, it didn't bother me. It wasn't a scene that I thought was good. It wasn't a scene that I thought was bad. I didn't see how it could be, how people could hate it so much that they're gonna bring it up like, oh, this movie was overstuffed with characters because they did these files. Oh, you won't believe how they introduced the Flash. It was just on a file and who cares? I mean, who cares? It was such a little part of the film. So no. You know, whatever. And Doomsday and the death of Superman. Now, this is a major problem I have with the movie. Now, I got why he did it, ballsy as hell, really ballsy. But in hindsight, after thinking about it for quite a while, it was very silly and short-sighted of them to kill Superman in this movie. Very bad idea, especially if you're gonna take away Clark Kent as well. I think the way the creature looked, they could have just reshot like certain things and just said that was Parasite instead, and nobody would have even minded, because that's kind of like what Parasite looks like. They could have got Scoot McNairy and just like thrown him into that stuff on the Kryptonian ship and mixed him with Zod and Lex and just created Parasite instead, and that would have been more than enough to take on Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman. Terrible idea to kill off Superman, because they've killed off Superman and Clark Kent, and we all know Superman's going to come back. But how are people going to buy the Clark Kent secret identity? Or are we not going to have Clark Kent anymore? It's just going to be Superman. There's no Clark Kent in this world anymore. Then you rip away the humanity of Superman. When he gets his solo movie, Clark Kent is the heart of Superman. So I thought that was a really bad idea. So didn't understand